Hey ho, let's go. Welcome back. This is the post-trade deadline edition of our show, in addition to Who's Hot and Who's Not, Go Get 'em and Cut 'em segments. But before we begin by asking you the question, where else would you rather be than right here, right now? You are looking live from our split studios. This is Fantasy Baseball Now. Episode 3 is upon us. Trade deadline concluded yesterday, about 26 hours ago, and we're here to recap it. Episode 3 of Fantasy Baseball Now is part of the broadcast or Ball9.com podcast network. By way of introduction, with a combined 70 years of fantasy baseball experience, I am Sean Pugsley Martin. This is Mike Nelson, here to talk some Major League Baseball with a fantasy baseball spin. On top of those topics already discussed, be sure to catch our closing 5 segment at the end of the show, especially you Yankee fans and Yankee haters. I have something for all of you. Yeah, that's appropriate tonight. Feel free to offer comments during the show, and we'll be happy to address them as we roll along. Mike, you got to be feeling pretty good. Is that a popular shirt in the city of brotherly love this week?
You know what? Oddly enough, no, it's not. It's not a popular shirt in the city of brotherly love. But you know what? Fuck them. The best team in baseball. How about the Brooms were out today? Nice day game. Nasty Nestor spinning. More Yankee fans than Philly fans, it sounded like, in Citizens Bank Park. Shameful. But look at 5 in a row. We're not dead yet. The reports of our demise have been greatly exaggerated. My friend Jeff Crotty decided to hit me up Friday night, 22 out of 32 after the Red Sox won, and we haven't lost since. So I'll blame him and I'll thank him because that's the way we go. But it's all good. The post deadline edition of Fantasy Baseball Now. It was it's always fun, right? It's like Christmas in July for baseball fans because the anticipation of what's gonna happen compared to what actually happens, and stuff that happens that you didn't think was going to happen, and stuff that you were expected to happen that didn't happen, which is probably what I'll talk more about than anything in the trade deadline.
Okay.
It was crazy. And my dog is not happy about Jack Flaherty being on the Dodgers. Well, let's just put it that way.
I honestly, I don't think that. We'll get into that. That was the thing that stood out for me with the deadline, the lack of like the holy shit moment, right? I didn't see it. You didn't even see a lot of the closers other than Tanner Skunk get moved. I'm waiting for Finnegan to get traded to screw up my fantasy team. Never happened. I mean, they traded.
Honestly,
I don't know what they were doing.
The Scott trade was the holy shit moment because that might have been the biggest. I mean, Eloy Jimenez to Baltimore is pretty.
That doesn't make any sense.
It was pretty. It doesn't make any sense. It was pretty surprising, but like that was probably the biggest trade that the Padres decided that our starting pitching is so bad that we're going to get 100 bullpen guys and we're going to bullpen our way to try to get into the playoffs. That was probably the biggest trade, and Florida got a haul. I mean, Florida got, and Miami traded everybody. I don't know how they feel the lineup last night.
Yeah.
They traded 10 guys.
Jesus. A lot of AAA guys get some early service time, too.
I mean, between them and Tampa, they traded half their major league rosters, and the 11 people in the Trop this afternoon were there to see all the new guys.
Tampa, which now sports a less major league payroll than the Oakland Athletics baseball organization.
Which good timing after the Pinellas County voted 5-2 to give them $331 million. So now that's a go.
That's
Tampa. 57 people in the Trop today for baseball, but let's give them $1 billion. Is
that a wild card game?
So yeah, it was a wild card game. It was a hugely important game. It was for bragging rights. It was loser leaves town match. It was a derby, as my English guest would call it.
And nobody cares. Nobody. The people were waiting for, hoping they'd lose.
Players didn't even care. They didn't care.
No. Biggest move for me was the Yankees with Jazz.
Smooth
think-
Jazz. Oh man,
I think he's got a chance to come in and light that thing up and invigorate him, put a little life into that lifeless offense
you
organization.
think he has already?
He has already, but he can
Holy
do that.
smokes. You know what? You know what the thing about that trade is that in the post trade fallout has pissed me off the most is Glaber saying I'm a second baseman and he won't play third.
Yeah, you know
And,
what?
and Glaber is statistically the worst fielding second baseman in baseball. And Jazz is like, I don't care where I play, I just want to win. And he doesn't look awful at third base.
Gleyber
That was a
Torres.
good move for that was a good move for the Yankees. A little help in the bullpen was a good move for the Yankees. I thought they were going to do more. I thought they were in on Tanner Scott. They didn't like the medicals on Flaherty. I thought the Estevez trade to the Phillies was a great trade for the Phillies, even though they haven't had a chance to use them in a save situation. So both of those trades impacted our league fantasy team dramatically.
Yeah.
Right, I was a little concerned that Jazz wouldn't run. I'd lose stolen bases because the Yankees don't run. That has not been the case. Josh Bell to the Diamondbacks was a great. They're running a good team there, man. They're running a good team, right? A little bullpen help. Christian Walker gets an oblique. We know Miami wants to dump guys. Let's go get a guy that can fit in our lineup, and he'll benefit from being. I think he'll benefit from being in that lineup. I don't get what the A's are doing. I don't have any idea. I was shocked that they didn't trade Rooker. I was shocked that they didn't move more pieces, especially out of their bullpen. I was equally as shocked that trading Lane Thomas is a big deal for Washington, but they didn't move as many pieces as I thought they were going to. Finnegan, you already talked about. The White Sox they must have been asking for the moon for Crochet, and I think Crochet hurt that trade possibility.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up in a little bit. You talk about
what they
how
were asking for Robert apparently was really, really high because that's who the Pirates, who pleasingly, the two teams that we talked about in the beginning in preseason that were on the upswing, the Royals and the Pirates both made moves to try to make the playoffs. The Royals trying to stay in it, and the Pirates trying to steal one of those wild cards. So good for both of them. The Thomas trade to the Guardians. Pardon me, sorry about that. Let's not pick it. Let's not get up. Come on, relax.
You can call it Indians. It's okay.
That's a really, really good trade for the Guardians.
I love that trade for them, and I love that trade for Team Pugsley Baseball as I try and pull off the comeback for the ages.
You should. I mean, his power's down, but that's a good move. I thought the O's would go more in for a top line pitcher, though. Rogers is a good move. That's a good move for them, but they had to give up two really good players for him, so they could afford it. But the get for him wasn't as much as the Astros paid for Kikuchi, and then so on him. I was listening to all day yesterday. I was listening to MLB Network on Sirius because I was in the car all day yesterday, and Jim Bowden is like, here's the problem with Kikuchi.
He sucks.
When he first gets to Seattle, it took him about a year to get comfortable. Then he goes to Toronto, and it took him about half a year to get comfortable. He was awful when he first got there. And now he's trading teams again. And if he gets the same thing, if they have the same thing, it's going to, then this really backfired on the Astros. And giving up Loverfido could come back to bite him.
Yeah, they give up their second, fifth, and 10th prospects for that, is what I believe I read. And the thing with Kikuchi is he strikes out a ton of guys, but if he's not striking them out, they're lining doubles into the gap or worse, or they're going over the fence. The optics on him have been terrible. The guy I love at the trade deadline is AJ Preller in San Diego.
He's a madman, isn't he?
He fortified the bullpen. I'll tell you what, he would be like a Hall of Fame GM, but the problem is he does this every year and it hasn't paid off yet. They haven't won anything.
No.
But if you're a Pods fan, and we have one, Todd, who's a friend of ours, good for him, man. At least you know your GM is getting creative and he's going all in and he's doing whatever he can.
Yeah, he does it every year so they can finish 500 and 3 games out of the playoffs. It's great. I think it's awesome. Jack the payroll up. The thing that confused me about the Orioles, this is what I don't get about the Orioles. They trade Austin Hayes
Yep.
to the Phillies for Sir Anthony Dominguez and another piece, and that was a little bit of addition by subtraction for the Phils. And they needed another outfielder. And Kristen Pache, who is one of those guys in 10 years will be like, name a player that you thought was going to be great that never was, right? It always looks like he's going to be a great player.
Yes.
Then they go out and get Eloy, and then they get Austin Slater, who's starting to turn into Mike Morgan. He's going on his 30th team. I mean, apparently they have a lot of concerns about Cedric Mullins, and he seems to be heating up. Oh, no, by the way, Jackson Holliday's back today, if anybody didn't notice, since he hit a grand slam. But most of them, I thought most of the moves were kind of like pieces moves, right? To your point, there wasn't any real gigantic move. There were big names being tossed around. Blake Snell was being tossed around. Tyone was being tossed around. Bellinger was being tossed. There were big, Robert. There were some big names being talked about, and none of them happened. I thought the sneaky move that the Mets made, especially based on his last start, was getting Paul Blackburn from the A's. I cannot hear a word you're saying, sir.
How's that?
Better. You know what? We're getting it. We are. All right. So for everybody that's out there, just a quick break for just a second from baseball. We are actively looking to replace our current producer. So if you have any capability of using the any key on the computer, you're qualified.
Well, here's the problem. I'm a moron. So, okay. So anyway, look, Blackburn was an all-star for Oakland. All right. So he's got that going for him. That was in the past. He's maybe a 4th starter at best, maybe a 5. I like what the Mets are doing. I think, much to your chagrin and to your wallet, I think they're going to make the playoffs.
They're not. They're not going to make the playoffs, and the reason that they're not going to make the playoffs is because they're the Mets.
Ooh, that's harsh. Okay.
You look at they're a little snake bit, right? They're a little snake bit because they wait all year to get Senga back, and he doesn't even make it through a start. Now he's out for the season, and I have to. And I have to. I'll read this comment to you in a second.
Here, I'll put it up.
This is awesome. So he traded Trey. So local Phillies fan and my daughter's cohabitant and self-professed future PGA Tour pro. Just traded Trey Turner for Crochet straight up thinking he's getting traded. So to answer your question, am I an idiot? Yeah. Yep. You're an idiot.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, but this is like 3 weeks of this conversation, right? So James did what we were talking about for the last 3 weeks. If there's unbelievable rumor going around, and the teams that are connected to these guys that you think are going to get traded, do you make a big move for them because it's going to give you a boost, especially if you need, like in his league, if he needs strikeouts, he's head-to-head. If strikeouts count are big scoring numbers in a head-to-head league, and you got a little depth at shortstop, and you're in a league with a bunch of guys from Philly, and they're all clamoring for Trey Turner. After the fact, yes, you're an idiot. But before the fact, it's just that you're trying to win. And it might be one of those moves that backfires. And in this case, it clearly backfired, James.
Yeah, let's go to the Dodgers. Now, look, they got some pieces, right? They got Rosario, they got Kopech, Edman, if he ever plays.
Kiermaier.
Kiermaier,
Get that.
Okay, he's 53 years old, got a good glove, but but Flaherty. Here's the problem I have with the Dodgers, and we're not going to know until October. Is this group any different than the recent LA team since Roberts took over in 2016? Their worst record in a non-COVID year, which was their only World Series win during this run, was 91 wins. They've had 91, 92, and every other year 100 wins, and they've won nothing. So I don't think this team is as good as the past ones. Yeah, they got some injuries, but I don't see it.
Yeah, but to me, I think you said the reason why, and you didn't even mean to say it. It's Dave Roberts. He's Aaron Boone. When you have a lineup and unlimited resources to go get players, you're making the playoffs.
Yes.
Like they're by default, they win that division. They're going to win that division. I thought the Flaherty trade said more about where they feel Walker Buehler and their prospects of what Yamamoto is going to look like when he comes back, says more about that than it does about anything else. Because they've started a ton of starting pitching. They may have had they're near the top of the league in most starters for the season.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty deep. I mean, they gave up good players to get Flaherty. I don't get why you'd trade for Michael Kopech unless you just have decided you want to see how much hair you can lose in the ninth inning. Unless they're going to put him back in the rotation.
Every team needs a seventh inning guy to give up 3-run homers.
Yeah, Yankees got one. Mark Leiter.
Covered.
He fit right in today. Mark Leiter fit right in the Yankee bullpen today. He gave everybody a friggin' heart attack.
All right, so let's talk about Crochet. Now, you talk about how not to handle the public relations game. When you're the hot guy out there, even though the warnings or signs are there, his innings that he's pitched are over his career high. It's all there for you. The numbers are outstanding. And then they come out, and to have it get out there that they're telling teams he's not going to pitch in the postseason without an extension. How stupid can you be? Well, you want to stay in purgatory for crying out loud?
I mean, I think Chris Getz summed it up the best. And he's a former player. Like, we had dialogue. I didn't expect to hear this, and I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Now I get it from his perspective. I understand. Right? He's coming off Tommy John. He's already been hurt. He's already 102 more innings than he threw all of last year. I get all that. And this is it. James's comments actually appropriate. I get all that from his perspective, but like when the heck did a 25-year-old start dictating to teams how he was going to, like, what was going to happen? Uh-oh. So James's league is participating apparently.
Very good.
In this event tonight, which is great. And this is their league. This is the junior trash talk version of the 35-year trash talk that we've had going on.
Excellent.
Good group of guys. None of them know shit about fantasy baseball, but it's okay. We play along a little bit.
Well, welcome to the show, boys. Thanks for joining on tonight.
Thanks for jumping on. It's nice they had a league meeting tonight during our podcast. That's
right. Great.
So, hey, guys, congratulations, because you are 3 more contributors than we had last week when we went live.
Exactly. We're rolling.
The Texas did comment on Facebook, and we ignored him because Syracuse Sausage has not yet sponsored our podcast, nor has he sent either of us a box of free sausage. So we're he's a little bit on the outs.
Yeah, look, to answer that question, do they give up too much for Trevor Rogers? Yeah, I think a bag of baseballs is too much for Trevor Rogers. I think the Orioles screwed up this deadline.
I'll share some information on him later.
I think the Orioles screwed up the deadline. So did the Yankees. The Yankees needed more pitching, didn't get it. And the Red Sox, James Paxton, come on.
Yeah,
That's
did you see what
you get a couple bullpen arms.
he did great last night. Right out, he forgot that he wasn't on the Dodgers anymore last night.
The big man in Massachusetts was extolling the virtues of a couple bullpen arms the Red Sox got, who I never heard of. All three AL East teams, I don't know what they're thinking. And the Orioles, you're hoarding all these young players and the best. Zach Eflin, okay, you're going to hang your hat on Zach Eflin for October
getting
6th?
2 fourth starters isn't the way to win the division.
No,
They're going to win the division, or they're going to make the playoffs, but it's not the way to win the World Series. And
did you really rank the teams 11th and 12th in the preseason?
Yeah, I did. So, Tom, I would say that I was either intoxicated, didn't care, or there's always that thing where a blind squirrel finds an acorn every once in a while.
All right.
I can't wait to do a postseason recap to see where I was wrong and where I was right. And clearly, I was wrong. I was clearly wrong on Tom and Nick. Clearly.
So let's get back to the O's here. Okay, you got all this young talent. I understand why they didn't want Flaherty. He was terrible for him last year, but you couldn't do anything.
You're like, why trade Hayes? Why trade Hayes? Why go get Austin Slater? Why go get Eloy Jimenez and not move Kjerstad? Because Kjerstad could have got it. I mean, Kjerstad could have gotten them certainly better than what they got. I thought they got Eflin cheap. I mean, clearly the Rays were dumping salary, which,
Well, you brought up Eloy. Why even bother? What do you need a guy to play 2 games a week before he pulls a hamstring walking back to the dugout after striking out?
He's going to get hurt.
I don't get that. They don't have enough.
That's a total. But what if he's Eloy?
He's not Eloy.
But they don't need him. First of all, they needed starting pitching.
Yes. That's my confusion with the O's.
Everybody needed starting pitching. It was crazy, and that's the crazy part, is that there were so many teams that needed starting pitching that the Guardians took a flyer on hoping that all the medical on Alex Cobb is good.
Yeah.
And the Giants, who sounded like they were going to start dumping pieces, looked at Snell, Robbie Ray, and Logan Webb, and they're like, Jesus, we got a good top 3, and we're still in the middle of this mess. And they trade Soler. The Braves put the band back together. They trade Soler, and to fill that little hole, they go out and get a perfect Giants player. And Mark Canha. Perfect. The perfect guy for that team.
He's right? From the Bay.
From the Bay, played for the manager. I mean, I don't know. They're so analytically driven that you wonder what they're doing half the time. And it seems like the teams that are focused on that level of that depth of analytics are doomed to be 500-ish in the wild card hunt, but not ever going to be good enough to drive. But obviously the O's should have done more. But if you're an O's fan, at least your owner did something, because you just lived for 20 years with that dope Angelos doing nothing.
True.
Trading everybody that was all the guys that the Marlins and the Rays dumped because they were either coming up on free agency or had one more year of control left, and they knew they didn't want to go to arbitration with them. That's how the Orioles ran for the last 20 years.
Here's the other team that I can't figure out what they're thinking is Minnesota. They're in the wild card spot. I mean, the 7 Twins fans out there in the country got to be upset.
Yeah. Sorry, Rod Carew.
Yeah, they did nothing, next to nothing.
But their 2 biggest acquisitions at the trade deadline were Miranda and Royce Lewis came off the DL, and they're already scoring runs like lunatics. But they did not get another starter, and they needed another starter.
But before we get to Thomas's thing on the Phils, since you're a closet Phillies fan,
You are gonna be a Phillies fan. We'll get to that later in the show.
did the Yankees screw the pooch by not going after a starter? Cole's not right. He hasn't been right since he's come back.
He's sick.
He's sick.
I did call in. Speaking of sick, I did call in sick today with body fatigue.
Yeah.
Fuck.
He's
Body fatigue. Shut up. He was sick. He was not COVID positive. He was sick, and that was from Yankee Medical. Not that you trust him, but he's over. Do I think they should have got a starter? There was rumors they were going to trade Cortez.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Because Schmidt's coming back. I think they could have gotten. They got De Los Santos. They got Leiter. They got rid of Caleb Ferguson. So that's a great move. That's addition by subtraction for sure, because he couldn't pitch in New York. Made a guy whose hair was as long as Matt Strom cut it to be a Yankee, and then gave him 6 months and then shipped him to Houston.
That's nice.
So maybe he can grow his hair back like Samson and be good again. They needed to fix the bullpen. I was hoping like a Paul DeYoung type guy, or bring IKF back, somebody that could give him more depth in the infield, because these guys are scuffling like crazy on the infield. Like I didn't think they needed to really go out and get a starter. I thought they needed to bolster the bullpen, and I'm not sure. The Phillies beat them to Estevez. The Padres overwhelmed the Marlins for Scott. I don't know what the hell Washington was asking for Finnegan.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, I don't want Chapman back in the Bronx under any circumstances, but he was available, and then they're like, no, they made a decision on Monday off a good weekend that we got a shot to get in this thing. We're going to do it. And they pulled ranks. The Pirates traded the Dodgers Martin Perez. Good thing they got a bunch of bullpen arms. Mm-hmm. Or no, the Pirates Martin Perez. So how does that helps the Pirates? That means Jones must be close to coming back, by the way.
I hope so. I need him. What about the Phils? Their moves, to me, they're still the team to beat in the NL.
Yeah, they're the best team in the National League. They're the best team in the National League. I wish that Eloy would have been a good get for them, because even if he sucked, he wouldn't have been worse than anybody that they had already had running around in the outfield. They could have used. They tinkered with their bullpen enough. Estevez is a great trade. I mean, that's a great trade, because that puts Hoffman and Alvarez exactly where they should be in the bullpen, like sharing 7 and 8, and puts them in the matchups. And Estevez, I mean, maybe they'll sign him, maybe they won't. He's certainly not Craig Kimbrell, so that's not going to happen. He misses bats. He'll probably be even more energized now that he's on a team that actually gives a shit about baseball.
Yep.
I'm a little worried about Suarez's back. I thought maybe they would have made a move for a middling starter, but Taijuan Walker's coming back. Speaking of middling starters, I thought they would have went out and I thought they would have went for Luis Robert like big time. That would have been terrifying. My God, if they would have went for Luis Robert, that would have been mortifying for the rest of the National League, because their lineup is already insane. But if you stick that guy in your lineup every day, that would have been crazy. And that would have let Marsh play center field. So I'm a little surprised. But the other part of it is that it was the trade deadline. We still got a month before you can make moves for guys if they clear waivers.
Yeah.
And have them eligible for your playoff roster. So I think that we tend to sometimes overreact to the moves that weren't made at the trade deadline and forget that moves get made over this period of time that we weren't preparing for moves to get made.
All right. Let's move on. Who's hot, who's not? And you have an interesting guy on here, and I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, so who's hot is the aforementioned Trevor Rogers. So I mean, his year-to-date stats aren't good. He's still kind of coming back. His last 5 starts, don't forget he's pitching for the Marlins. He's a 3.38 ERA. He's a strikeout an inning. He's a 1.4 WHIP, which isn't ideal, but those numbers literally carry over his last 9 starts. And his first 7 starts were crap. They were terrible. So they got him at the right time. They kind of bought high on the guy that was hot, and I think they're thinking it's going to carry on. And then we'll stay on that same team. And there were 2 catchers that could have made this list. One resides in Philadelphia, who I traded for the day he came back from the DL, who's not been great since the All-Star break. But the guy in Baltimore, the face of baseball, in his last 28 days, Adley Rutschman is hitting 139 with 2 homers and 6 RBIs. On that team. That's almost impossible. But it's almost impossible. He's clearly not hot. But James McCann proved the other day that he'll play no matter what, which
tough guy.
He should be the poster child for this podcast, man. That he looked like we did coming back from the bar many nights, but he So Adley Rutschman, to say he's not hot is a mild understatement.
Gotcha. I'm gonna go to Philly. Tyler Phillips. Never heard of him, but I enjoyed his stat line against his last time out.
Jersey boy.
Third MLB start, throws a complete game shutout. I picked him up. He's on my bench, but we're gonna watch him, so he's worth it.
Nice conviction.
Well, I decided to give Logan Webb one more chance to just rip my guts out. He's got the A's at home tonight, and he'll probably give up 4 home runs like Robbie Ray at 3 last night in his limited outing.
Yeah, he did.
And then Kikuchi, who just because you go to the Astros, you're dead to me. I mean, he sucks. His last 21, ERA is 7.48, 1.48 whip. He's got a ton of strikeouts, but like I said, that's there's a lot of peripherals that go with those strikeouts. And I'm happy to see the Astros didn't do a whole lot except for pick him up because I'd like to see them somehow miss the playoffs.
So his July ERA is in the almost 8.
Yeah.
His June ERA was 6.5.
Yeah.
So he's clearly not, and they gave up so much for the guy. He gave an incredible amount.
They did.
I mean, their farm system's been depleted for sure, but they gave up a lot.
Yes. All right, how about go get him or go cut him?
Yeah, speaking of conviction, so go get Josh Bell. In that lineup, he's got 5 homers in his last 7 games. He's in a much, much better lineup. He'll hit in that lineup. He'll be protected. He's only 41% owned on CBS. I picked him up and I put him on my bench. So as I mock you for having no conviction, I did the same damn thing. And then just cut Brooks Lee. Just cut him. I know he's playing. He's still 48% owned. He started in 21% of the leagues. Hit 240. I mean, he doesn't do anything. As soon as Correa comes back, he's going to never play. He's going to get demoted again. Just cut him. There can't be less options at shortstop and third base than him. There has to be somebody.
I'm going to go to Baltimore, and despite the presence of the way too many times aforementioned Eloy Jimenez, I said cut Colton Cowser just a few weeks ago. Go get him now. Austin Hayes is in Philly. Cowser's going to play. Left field looks like it's his. Go get the kid. And if you are afraid of Eloy, don't worry about it. He probably went on the IL in the time this broadcast started. Cut him. Alex Verdugo, he sucks. He's terrible. He's been terrible.
Not so fast, my friend.
Before today, I don't know what he did today. 206 in his last 21, 3 RBIs, 0 homers. He doesn't steal his bases.
Look at the last 7.
What's that?
Look at the last 7.
No. Why?
Because since they went to Boston, he's starting to hit. He started hitting on Friday night. They've moved him a little bit around the lineup, and he's still hitting. So
I don't know. I think with Jazz there now, his spot's a little more precarious because they can move some guys around.
Well, you also have Dominguez looming.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You got Dominguez looming, right? So I mean, if they would have found a way to get Ryan McMahon to play third base and got Jazz, Verdugo probably would have moved. He'd probably be in San Francisco instead of Connor. Or he'd be in Baltimore with the other 11 outfielders that they acquired at the deadline. I don't know.
Okay. All right. You ready for the closing five?
I am ready for the closing five.
Okay. So look, Yankee fans, get over yourselves. Yankee Twitter blown up the last couple days because Jazz Chisholm dared to take the diamond with a green belt on. He probably just brought it from him with Miami. Sorry, maybe nobody told him he's going to corporate America, otherwise known as the Yankee Clubhouse. Shave the little chin thing you got going, because God forbid you have any sort of individualism as a Yankee. My God, the guy comes in as a big weekend. He brings a little life to the party, and what's people talking about? His green belt. Stop! Make it stop. Just make it stop. You know I'm right. You're part of the problem.
I have many thoughts. I didn't give a shit. I don't care. I want to win championships. I don't care if he wears Jason Giambi's gold thong. I could care. I don't really care. There was just as by the way, there was just as much outrage over him wearing his hat backwards too. Until somebody posted a photo of Jeter in a post-game interview with his hat on backwards, and everybody shut up.
All right, so look, I'm number two. I'm perusing my kids' school schedule for next year, and they've tacked on way too many more holidays and days off. I get it. Some of them it's a little much. Make the deadline should be a national holiday. I know it's not a school day, obviously, but a little trouble focusing on work yesterday. So if we're going to make a national holiday out of all this other stuff, let's give the MLB trade deadline a day.
Yeah. First day of free agency in the NBA, opening day of baseball, election day.
Yep.
Major League Baseball trade deadline day.
And move the Super Bowl to President's Day weekend so you get Monday off anyway.
Yeah. Well, move the Super Bowl to Saturday so you don't have to take Monday off.
All right. So here's the stat that blew my mind.
You're still on this, huh?
Yeah. For now. The separation agreement.
We're talking about the Cubs again, or are we still back on?
No, we're talking about the A's. We're going back to Oakland. The highest paid, did you know? The highest paid hitters in the Oakland Athletics organization are the two guys they drafted last month during the baseball draft.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not Nick Kurtz and Tommy White. They're the two highest.
They're making more than the guy they signed as a free agent, Brent Rooker?
Yes. They are the highest paid hitters in the A's organization. And because they have to, because of the draft slotting. Okay. All right.
That's
seriously. That I'm not making that up.
You couldn't make that up. And yet they did nothing.
Well, they Mason Miller's on the IL, and the first time that organization
they traded Erceg. I mean, it was a good arm, but they didn't do anything. They didn't
move anything.
Rooker, you don't think somebody?
Well, Rooker could have gotten him something. I don't know what I think they're trying to wow the 13,000 that they're going to draw in Sacramento in the 110-degree heat next year with some sort of name. That's the only thing I can figure.
It's crazy to me.
Well, and a welcome back to Clayton Kershaw. He's one of my favorite pitchers ever to watch. He's a member of the Team Pugsley Hall of Fame. It's good to see him back in the game. I hope he the one thing I wish for Kershaw every year, I want him to dominate in the postseason and pitch like he is in the regular season. I feel bad for him. Every year he just goes out in the postseason and just like, oh my God, come on, Kersh, let's go.
If you remember, that was a knock on Maddox for a long time too.
It was. He's
a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean,
without question.
He was on my all-time fantasy baseball team. It is good. The game is better when Clayton Kershaw is playing and he'll get to retire on his own accord and not because his body broke down and he can't play anymore.
Yeah, you know what? I'm no Dodger fan, but I would love to see him win another title. I really would. Really,
it's the only reason that I root for him to suck in the postseason is because I'm not a Dodger fan.
Gotcha.
I just wish it was somebody else. You know what I mean? I feel bad for him because I'm a fan, but I don't feel bad when he pitches poorly in the postseason because it's just a reflection of how much of a choker organization. They could have 15 or 16 World Series if they could ever beat the Yankees, but no,
Yeah, they couldn't.
They couldn't do it.
All right. Fan free agency update.
Here we go.
So here we go, right? For those new to the show, I'm out on the A's. They move. I'm done. They're not going to Vegas ever. Just that ain't going to happen. I think they're going to end up in Sacramento playing that sweltering heat. So if they stay in Oakland, same here, right? But that's not going to happen. So this year's about the separation for me from the A's. So we're down to the final five, which are the Yankees. Mike's trying to recruit me. The Phillies, the Red Sox, the Orioles, and the Braves. And so last weekend, I decided to sit down and I said, you know what, I'm going to watch some Yankees Red Sox Friday night. And I was reminded of the fact of just why the Yankees are out. They're out. They're gone.
Yeah. Well, look, it saved. I don't have to get any more signatures on the petition. Thank you. Because I was going door to door like the Fuller Brush man. I couldn't say because there's so many people in the Jehovah's Witness protection program. I couldn't say that.
So there's the update. The blue line, the X. And really I'm disappointed with having to do that because I wanted to drive you nuts. And quite frankly, it would have been fun. We would have had a love fest every week with the Yankee baseball and talked about our 27 world championships. But here's the thing why it happened. It would have happened anyway. I turn on that game and I'm just reminded I don't watch the Yankees much and I don't listen to them on the radio ever because I have enough dents in my head without trying to follow those people. And Michael Kay on there is just licking Nestor Cortez's backside on how he's 4-9. And oh my God, he should be 9-4 with the way he's pitched. And he's got a 3.99 ERA. I don't know what it is now after those two starts, but no, stop. Just stop.
It was a welcome relief to be in a blackout area where I couldn't get a Yankee feed.
Oh my God.
And I had to, like, I feel like I was like, this is not in a bad way. So I'd listen to Tom McCarthy and John Kruk and the Phillies feed for the game. And they're great. They're great. I mean, Ricky Ricardo did the game the other night on the radio with Susan Waldman.
Yeah.
For the Yankees. He's great. They won't make him full time because he's great. Now I get it. Like for as a Yankee fan, you're spoiled rotten because for those of us that were following him in the 70s and the 80s and had Frank Messer and Bill White and Phil Rizzuto and then Bobby Mercer, as great a booth as there ever was in baseball. I mean, they're great. As much as I hate the Mets booth is fantastic.
Yeah.
The Yankees, depending on who they roll in there. I mean, when Joe Girardi's in there, it's great. When Cohn's in there, it's great. I mean, Paul O'Neill, Todd Frazier, no, thank you. Michael Kay is an apologist for the organization. I get it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to help you.
Oh, you're going to help me out.
So you wouldn't have driven me nuts if you had chosen the Yankee to be a Yankee fan. I just wouldn't have allowed it. But the easiest way for you to drive me nuts is to be a Red Sox fan. And mentally you fit the mold of a Red Sox fan because you really don't bring anything to the table of any value at any point in time, like all the other Red Sox fans that we know. The other way, the way you would drive me probably the most nuts is if you were a Phillies fan and then you'd show up at my friggin' house and want to go to games. So that's
not even the full benefit. and I drink your beer.
Well, yeah, exactly. So yeah. So while I would my vote, I would cast a vote of approval if you decided to switch to the Phillies. However, there would have to be some kind of contract signed that like leave $1 or something, right? Flush the toilet once. That would be nice when you showed up.
Wait, once over a whole weekend?
Yeah. I mean, I'd welcome the boys here. That'd be great because they would, at least bring some value.
they caught the game today, and I did tell them what a beautiful ballpark that is. Now
It's
the
a
other
great
team,
stadium.
the Red Sox are in it just to irritate you. I am a Bruins fan, and Liam did like driving by Fenway Park a few weeks ago. The Braves, because I got my man Matt Olson, my favorite player, who now has 4 home runs in his last 5
Yeah, he's
games.
heating up. Your boy's heating up a little bit.
He's heating up, and the Orioles, because I like what they're doing, and they no longer have the Angelos name affixed to their organization.
Olsen and Darno went back-to-back twice today in the same game.
Sweet.
That's crazy. That doesn't happen very often. Back-to-back twice.
All right. You got anything else this week before we close up shop?
Back to the Jazz thing. Twitter's a fun place to pardon me. Sorry about that.
Twitter.
It's a fun place to be because there's such a gap in there's such a broad band of age of fans, right? So and you've got a lot of ex-players that chime in on stuff. And they chimed in on this, right? Like, don't say that he forgot his, like all the excuses, right? He forgot his belt, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, no, every equipment manager in the world has extra stuff all the time, right? Like, I get all that. But can we let a guy play a little bit before we either anoint him as the savior of the season or judge him for what he looks like? Because it's a bad look any way you look at it. And there's always going to be somebody that's going to make it about what it's not, right? It's mostly about either get off my porch because he doesn't have the right uniform on and it's not the Yankee way and doesn't wear your hat crisp and clean and all this other crap. Like I get all that. And I think that's part of the allure of the Yankees, but it's also 2024.
Yeah.
And for me with Chisholm, his personality, Soto's personality's already had an impact on that team. The Juan Soto thing is real. That team, if any clubhouse needed a bump of personality and excitement, that one did over the last 10 years. Now they got it. And he's off to a good start. So let's just judge him for how he plays. And let's not I give him more credit for going to third base and making Glaber look like an idiot than I care about whether his hat was on backwards or whether he was wearing a barbed wire chain his first game or whether he was had a green belt on. I honestly don't care about any of that stuff.
Play baseball.
It's just let's just play baseball. And since he's on my team, it's important that he plays well.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I found a way to circumvent the Twitter, but we tried to go live on both our Facebook feeds last week and Twitter. And Twitter, we found out later, wouldn't let us do it because we don't pay the $8 a month to Mr. Musk.
He needs it.
So he does. He might, the way he's running it. So what I did tonight was I posted the live link to YouTube on Twitter. Just posted the link to it and hit enter, and boom, there it is. So
you backdoored Twitter.
Yes. So Elon.
He'll fix that. He'll fix that. Maybe a Tesla SUV will show up in your driveway.
So all that, you know what? Next week we'll see if we get any applications for the production department. I think
we need a producer. We're technologically challenged. It's been difficult looking at 2 screens at the same time, to say the least. So we are taking applications. Knowledge of the any key, extraordinarily important. A basic understanding of how to stay out of the way when 2 people that tell everybody they know what they're talking about, but they really don't get going. And a pipeline of any kind of information to the big man in Massachusetts to fill in the blanks for what we really mean when we say stuff, because he sometimes needs a little extra explanation.
And on that note, smash that like button, subscribe icon to ball9.com YouTube channel. As you can catch all future episodes, you can follow us on Twitter and taking our podcast here on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And I think with that, my friend, we are out.
Yeah, James, Joe, Justin, Thomas, thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot,
for
boys.
jumping in on that. That was great. We appreciate it. Look forward to more. I look forward to recapping where I was right and where I was wrong in that league, and that may be the last episode of Fantasy Baseball now, frankly, given the fact that the teams I picked for 11th and 12th are first and second. That's not going to add a lot of credibility to us knowing what we're talking about. But
Very good.
What are you going to do?
It's a long season. The dog days are upon us.
Exactly.
All right, my man.
Be well.
All right. Enjoy. See y'all next week. Bye now.